Okay.
Thank you, Terry. In accordance with an act to implement provisions necessary to the health, welfare, and safety of the citizens of Maine, in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency as enacted to read Section G11 MRSA Section 403-A, public proceedings through remote access during a declaration of emergency, the regular board meeting will be held through Google Meet. The meeting will be live streamed and available for viewing at www.msad11.org. Again, that's www.msad11.org. Members of the public wishing to make a comment are invited to do so during the public comment sections of the meeting and may call 207-582-5346 or send an email to schoolboard, capital S, capital B, at msad11.org. Again, the phone number is 207-582-5346 or send an email to schoolboard, capital S, capital B, at msad11.org. In addition to the regular public comment section at the beginning of the board agenda, an additional public comment section has been added at the end of the agenda to provide the school board with the ability to answer questions sent to them during the meeting. Our call to order, pursuant to subsection 403A of 1 MSRA Maine Revised Statutes Annotated, we will now confirm that each board member of the MSAD11 board can hear and be heard. We will do this by calling the roll. Members present are asked to say yay. We ask all members to listen and report any audio difficulties when the roll is complete. Pat, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Becky Fless,
Yay.
Veronica Babcock, yay. Nancy Fortier Brown, Teresa Garrett,
Yay.
Matthew Lillybridge,
Yay.
Jim Lothridge,
Yay.
Nicole Medore,
Yay.
Matthew Marshall,
Yay.
Patrick Saucier,
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy, Cullen McGuff,
Yay.
and we know Tony V is absent. We also know that Quentin Martin will be absent tonight. Gwyn Boldick Ignaziak.
Yay.
That's it, Becky.
Thank you. Administrative staff?
I'm Pat Hopkins, Superintendent of Schools. I would call on Andrea,
Andrea Dish, District's Business Manager.
Angela,
Angela Hardy, Director of Curriculum.
Chad,
Chad Kempton, High School Principal.
Christina,
Christina O'Neill, Principal at Pittston Randolph Consolidated School.
Alicia,
Alicia Morris, Director of Special Services.
John, John, are you right there?
Yeah. John LaPerrier, Principal of Gardner Regional Middle School.
Josh,
Josh Farr, Director of Adult Education.
Katie,
Katie Gould, Principal at Helen Thompson School.
Karen,
Karen Moody, Building Principal of Laura Richards School.
Nate,
Nate's probably covering the
Sorry, I was on.
cheerleading.
Nate Stubbert, Athletic Director. I was muted, sorry.
okay. Terry,
Terry McGuire, Director of Technology.
and Vicky.
Vicki Dugay, Building Principal at Riverview Community School.
Thank you. That's everyone, Becky.
I was muted, sorry. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Carrie, I see your hand is up. No? Perfect. All right then. Public comments for items on the agenda?
I have not received any public comments.
Great, thank you. Review and approval of the agenda minutes, prioritization of items and alterations of the established agenda format sequence as needed. Any adjustments?
Yes, I have a couple. We sent out an amended agenda yesterday. To that amended agenda, I have a couple additional changes. One on page 3 under general information. I would like to add Samantha Dimick, D-I-M-M-I-C-K, as a long-term sub at the Helen Thompson School. And then on page 4, under my report, I have listed changes in special education age eligibility. I would like to shift that up to new business. It would be B in new business. Those are my only 2 changes.
All right then. May I have a motion then, please, to accept the agenda as altered?
I make a motion.
Okay.
Motion
I'll second
by
it.
Jim. Veronica and Jim.
She's
Thank you.
fast.
Sorry.
You're not close, though. You're right up there. All right. We have a motion and a second. Any conversation? Pat, would you please call the roll?
Becky Fless,
Yay.
Veronica Babcock.
Yay.
Has Nancy joined us? No,
No.
okay. Teresa Garrett,
Yay.
Matthew Lillybridge,
Yay.
Jim Lothridge,
Yay.
Nicole Madore,
Yay.
Matthew Marshall,
Yay.
Patrick Saucier,
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy. Has she joined us yet?
I don't see her.
Okay. Cullen McGuff
Yay.
and Gwen Boldick Ignatiak.
Yay.
That's unanimous, Becky.
Great, thank you. May I please have a motion to approve minutes of the regular board meeting on February 4th?
I make a motion to accept those meeting minutes.
I second that.
Thank you. So motion by Veronica, second. Pat, would you please call the roll?
Sure. We didn't hear you. The second was Teresa, I believe. Is that correct? Okay.
That's correct.
All right. Becky Fless,
Yay.
Veronica Babcock.
Yay.
I'm looking for Nancy again. I don't see that she's joined us yet. Teresa Garrett,
Yay.
Matthew Lillybridge,
Yay.
Jim Lothridge,
Yay.
Nicole Madore,
Yay.
Matthew Marshall,
Yay.
Patrick Saucier.
Yay.
Has Alyssa joined us? I don't see that she has. Cullen McGuff
Yay.
and Gwen Boldick Ignatiak.
Yay.
That's unanimous. Sorry.
Oh, great, thank you. Recognitions and celebrations.
Sure, we just have a couple that we wanted to bring to your attention. The first one is Alden Gilg, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but wanted to make sure that you were aware that he has been selected or was selected to serve in the Mid-Maine Youth Orchestra. It's a full orchestra for which students in grades 7 through 8 audition. They did that audition in October. And Alden, as a grade 7 student, was selected. And so really proud of his accomplishment. They do have 2 concerts to help showcase these talented musicians in the Central Maine area, and I just wanted you to be aware of that. Also, the second recognition is our own Quentin Martin, who received first place, the State of Maine Annual Classical Association of New England Writing Contest. So congratulations to Quentin.
That's awesome. And of course, this is the moment in the meeting when Quentin and Gwen would bring cupcakes and we would say congratulations and have hearty applause. So
Right. And
imagine
Quentin,
that.
and Quentin is not here because Quentin has the lead part in the high school play that is opening virtually this evening. And it is running tonight, tomorrow night, and Saturday night. It's my understanding tickets are still available. If you are interested, please let us know. You can always contact the high school or contact the central office. I assume that the tickets are available on the high school website as well.
And since it's virtual, there's no limit to how many they don't have a seating limit, correct? Anybody, they don't run out of tickets, yes?
You know, I
That's
don't know.
fantastic.
I don't know if there's a limit because of licenses or not. I just don't know how that works.
Yep, gotcha. Well, that's exciting. Correspondence.
Correspondence, just as listed, you will see that we have a number of retirements for next school year. The deadline for us to be notified was March 1st. So we have 4 staff members who are retiring at the end of the school year.
Wow.
So yeah,
Mr. Colvin.
yes.
He's a legend.
Yes, so we have Lisa
Oh,
Foster
yeah.
at the middle school.
Yeah.
Mr. Smith, also a legend over at
Yes,
Helen
all three
Thompson.
legends. Wow, look at that.
Yeah, Linda Miles, a speech and language pathologist, and then Matt Colvin, social studies teacher at the high school.
Wow. Well, those are all big shoes to fill. All right. Committee reports. CATC, no meeting. Curriculum committee. Matt?
Good evening, everyone. We had our meeting on February 9th. Mr. Kempton spoke to us about review and proposal of reduce the number of required community service hours due to the limited opportunities available to students during COVID, which is sort of a common sense approach, and we supported that. So that's something to look at. Angela and Mr. Kempton discussed an opportunity to create another pathway for students to earn credentials on their transcript. Students whose native language is not English and students who are enrolled in level 4 language courses could be eligible for a state-approved seal of biliteracy. Angela, did you want to talk to that at all, or?
The state has an endorsement called the Seal of Biliteracy, and students need to meet criteria in English, and there's a set of criteria available or pathways for students to meet proficiency in English through either the SAT or course grades, and meet proficiency in another language, and that could be someone's native language or a language they've learned other than English, or a language they've learned through coursework or some other pathway. But in that language, they would need to pass a proficiency exam through the Association of Teachers of Foreign Language or something called Avant. And we proctor those exams. So we are going to, we got conceptual approval from the curriculum committee. So we're going to pilot the process this spring with a few students. And then once they receive their scores, we'll support them in applying to the state of Maine to earn their seal of biliteracy. And if it is approved, then they would have that as part of their transcript and can include it on their application to post-secondary institutions and other such pathways, college and career pathways. So it's very exciting. It's a new process for us. So we're just trying to figure out how to navigate that and then document it in such a way that that all the staff are aware and that the students know what steps to take and have the support to move through those steps.
Yeah, and I actually asked the question of how many students this actually affected, and there was two to four, and maybe 5, but it's anticipated in the out years that it's going to be a few more. So I think it's actually a really good opportunity. The other thing that was really nice was the curriculum committee. They've been working on developing teaching and learning expectations focused on handwriting, cursive, and keyboarding. The cursive piece was really interesting to me because I think it's something that's been lost over the years. And I think kids, the discussion that we had, I think kids are really going to embrace that. And I think that's something that's really, really good moving forward. So.
Yeah.
Can we go back to community service?
Sure.
Because you are recommending that you're going to alter graduation requirements, that requires a board action. There would have to be a motion. So could you expand on what you plan to do just a little bit further?
Sure. Chad, could you explain?
He's one of
Sorry,
the
Chad.
Cochran.
I'm saying he's also doing double duty. He is over at the ice rink. So he may have been pulled away.
I can step in.
Great.
So specifically what's happening is the students we're finding have limited access to community service opportunities because of the pandemic, the social distancing requirements, the safety requirements, and many organizations aren't able or at capacity to provide community service opportunities for students. Last spring, the board approved a reduction in community service hours that are required for the graduating class of 2020, and a slight reduction for the class of 2021, I believe, to modify the number of hours they would need to secure across their years at Gardner Area High School. So now that we've gone through a full year of the pandemic, Chad came to the board wondering if we could think about that in terms of the student body currently in our school system and the impact this loss of hours this year will have on their ability to earn the 60 hours that are required. I think it's 60 hours, the number of hours that are required by graduation. So the proposal suggests that and it's in your paperwork, the proposal suggests that we have a scaled back version for the class of 2021, and then modified expectations for this year of service for the classes of 2022, 23, and 24. Just to take
Angela, I was able to get back on. I was driving, so I had to pull over.
That's okay. Did I represent it accurately?
Absolutely. So essentially what we're doing is we're voiding the 3 semesters of during the pandemic. So last spring, this past fall, and this spring, which has impacted kids' ability to access community service opportunities. So that essentially takes away 7.5 hours per semester, which brings it down to 37.5 hours for a student that was a 4-year student. And that would apply for our seniors, juniors, and sophomores. And then our freshmen have been in the mix for this year, so it would reduce theirs from 60 to 45.
Chad, it basically is in alignment with what we did last year, right?
Yes, we're just voiding out the semesters where the pandemic has impacted kids' ability to access community service, and we're keeping the semesters where they would have had access to community service.
It's just a common sense measure that makes sense, I think.
So Matt, we need to have a motion on this, and then we can always open it up for discussion if there are board members that have any questions.
Right, so I make a motion that we adjust community service hours in alignment with the way we did last year, reducing the amount of hours per semester by, was it 7.5, Chad?
Yes, 7.5 per semester.
Okay, that's it.
I second it.
So we have a motion and a second. Pat, would you please call the roll?
Anyone have any questions first? Okay, awesome. Thank you, Becky. I just wanted to make sure. I thought I saw someone's hand at one time. Becky Fless,
Yay.
Veronica Babcock,
Yay.
Nancy Fortier Brown. Nope, she's not here yet. Teresa Garrett,
Yay.
Matthew Lillybridge,
Yay.
Jim Lothridge,
Yay.
Nicole Madore,
Yay.
Matthew Marshall,
Yay.
Patrick Saucier,
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy, I don't see her yet. Cullen McGuff,
Yay.
Gwen Boldick Ignatiak.
Yay.
Great, that's everyone. It's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Dropout.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Chad. I'm glad you pulled over.
Yeah.
Okay, Jim, do you have something for us for dropout prevention? Jim
Well,
and John.
yes, we actually, we met on February 2nd, and last month we presented our dropout prevention plan, which was approved by the board. But we will be meeting later this month to discuss lost learning and how we can address it. And hopefully, and Pat has been kind enough to get us a mental health professional on the committee. So I think we'll hopefully have many things to report, or at least get started at the next meeting. So that's all. There was nothing this month yet. We will be meeting later. That's it.
Thank you, Jim. Finance Committee, let's see. Finance Committee met, let's see, what was the date? On February 23rd at 5:30. We looked at the ED 279 and had a review of the EPS funding formula. We were provided by Andrea with a copy of the Department of Education's actual ED 279 calculation so that we could go over it. And it was, as always, really informative. I learned something every time. So Andrea, thank you for that. We also did an update of the status quo 2021-22 budget. The 21-22 requested budget and preliminary budget worksheet were shared with the committee. In its current form, the $28,236,696 preliminary requested budget is $2,075,696 more than the current fiscal year budget. So that's an increase of 7.93. Please don't gasp, it won't stay there. So that's just what we have right now, and we'll be working from there to see what we need to do next. And so our finance committee meetings will begin to get really exciting and dig deep. So I encourage everyone to come and participate and just watch the process. We have a great process. We also looked at the school budget fiscal year 2021 approval process. Governor Mills has, because of the executive order, has shared with committee members similar to the 2021, that the order allows for districts to approve the budget by the referendum vote, as opposed to how we have done it in the past in the high school gym, which I sort of enjoy and miss because I feel as though there's a lot more participation. But we'll get back to that hopefully when when the pandemic has run its course. We talked about flex benefits. The committee members were requested to approve a change in the plan administrators for the district's flex plan. The reason cited by Andrea for the request change was the reimbursement process of the district's current plan administrator, and it was it's just been difficult and frustrating. So that was voted on unanimously to switch providers. And then we also went over the diesel and the unleaded fuel prices. So, and that's about it. Our next meeting will be the third Tuesday in March.
16th.
March 16th. Thank you, Pat. And that's that meeting. And again, I encourage new board members, any board members who are interested, even if you're not all that interested in finance, this is a great way to learn about, as new board members, how things work and what we need and what we don't have enough for. So it's a great process. So I encourage you to attend.
Becky, if we're done finance, may I ask a favor? Before we move on to policy committee, could we shift to page 4? Update on winter and spring sports. There was a summary in your board packet, but Nate is with us right now and he is going to have to leave. He has other commitments. And so I thought it might be nice for board members to hear from him first before he has to take off. So do you mind if we make that minor adjustment? Then we can go back to policy.
Absolutely. That's great.
Okay. So Nate.
Hi, everybody. So I'm coming to you from the gym. If it's too loud, there are balls bouncing in here, I can move. But I just got summoned over to the scoreboard because they're having technical difficulties, so I'll try to be really quick with this. I submitted the report to Pat, and I believe you all have a copy of it. Today has been an extremely busy day. We had middle school boys and girls basketball games. We had the KVAC girls ski meet. We had the KVAC cheerleading competition, which was recorded here in our gymnasium and will be submitted virtually. We had a boys ice hockey game, which Chad covered at 4 o'clock. And tonight we have girls basketball against Mount Blue at 6:30, which is a playoff game. The boys hockey game was also a playoff game. And our boys varsity basketball team won their first playoff game last night at Mount Blue. So that was pretty exciting. And they play Maranacook on Friday. As you can see that I put in, I thanked a lot of people for helping out this year. I'm sure there were some people I left off. I know one of the people I left off was Nick Wallace. He was streaming all of our virtual swim meets at the YMCA. So I want to make sure I add him and acknowledge him as well. You know, this pandemic was certainly different than it has been for any athletic year, especially for winter sports. But overall, I think it was a season. We had most of our teams performing. The only team that didn't perform was wrestling. And when I wrote this report, the MPA still had wrestling on a delayed status, but has since canceled wrestling since I wrote this report. So wrestling has officially been canceled for this school year. You know, we had a lot of creative things that we came up with as far as streaming. I also want to thank Munson Media for streaming all of our home basketball games at the high school level. That's something that they have never done before. That was, you know, typically they stream or they broadcast a couple of our home games, but this year they did every single one. So I want to send a big thank you out to Munson Media because he was able to bring all of the parents the games that they were so desperately willing to watch or wanting to watch. And so I really want to thank him. I also want to thank the parents who were streaming our games. We had our freshman boys basketball games streamed, our middle school basketball games streamed, our swim meets streamed, our hockey games streamed by Casey Johnson. It was just really a great community effort to see everybody come and help us. We had people running the clocks, volunteers running the clocks, scoreboard for basketball games that have never done it before that stepped up and were willing to help. So it was really great to see everybody come together and make this such a successful season.
And Nate, can you just speak very briefly to spring sports? What's the plan
Yep.
for spring sports and football?
Yep. So football has been canceled. That was an announcement made probably about a month ago or so that football has officially been canceled. The original plan was to have touch football or flag football in the fall, which we did, and then have a regular football season in the late spring, early summer. That plan was supposed to, proposal was to have a 3-game schedule and then playoffs for football. And after much consideration and collaboration between different organizations, they decided to cancel the football season altogether. So this year's football season has been canceled. There still is nothing official from the MPA as far as spring sports is concerned. We have heard through people having conversations with the MPA, Mike Bisson and Mike Burnham, that spring sports will start on time, which is March 29th. And they want to have as normal of a spring sports season as they possibly can, given that spring sports were canceled altogether last year. So what that means, we don't know because we don't have the guidelines yet. So I fully anticipate that we will be playing every spring sport, including lacrosse. Lacrosse is considered a medium risk or a moderate risk sport, much like hockey. If we're able to play hockey, then I'm pretty sure we're able to play lacrosse. I don't know what those guidelines are going to be. We played fall sports. Athletes played fall sports without masks. We played winter sports with masks. So I don't know what they're going to mandate for spring sports. We don't know if we're going to have masks. We don't know what the spectator guidelines will be. I think we're still under the executive order of 100 outside. So that's going to, be a determining factor as well as what we have for spectators. So I wish I had more information or more concrete information regarding spring sports, but I don't at this point because we still haven't received anything from the MPA.
Thank you, Nate.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Nate.
Any questions for Nate before he leaves?
No, but it sure would be nice to, I don't have a question, but a comment. It would be really nice for our kids to be able to have some sense of normalcy with their athletics. I understand it's just so hard right now.
Yeah.
It's really hard. So thank you, Nate.
You're welcome.
Policy committee.
Okay, great. Policy. Tony is not here. Alyssa, would you like to move this forward for policy committee?
Certainly. So as written for first reading and second reading on the agenda.
A motion, please, from someone?
I think Alyssa meant that as a first.
Okay, I'm
Right?
sorry. I misunderstood. May I have a
No
second?
Second.
Who did the second?
I did.
Teresa, was that you? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. My squares keep moving around. I keep losing you. All right, any questions or comments from board members? Hearing none. Pat, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Becky Fuss,
Yay.
Veronica Babcock.
Yay.
I believe Nancy has not joined us. Teresa Garrett,
Yay.
Matthew Lillybridge,
Yay.
Jim Lothridge,
Yay.
Nicole Medor. Nicole, are you there?
Mute issues. Yay. Thank you.
Matthew Marshall,
Yay.
Patrick Saucier,
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy,
Yay.
Cullen McGuff,
Yay.
Gwen Boldick Ignasiak.
Yay.
Great, that's unanimous, Becky.
Thank you so much. Next is student reps. Gwen, can you give us our March report?
So everything has been going very well for me as a student, and I've heard great things from other students. And the musical, Ms. Hawkins kind of covered that already, but Quentin is the lead, so he's not joining me tonight, but I wanted to wish them luck, and you can still buy tickets. There's flyers everywhere. And yeah, that's really all I have for this month.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. Next, ad hoc committees, the turf committee.
But before you do that, we have wellness committee. It says that there was no meeting, but in fact, there was a meeting this past Monday.
Okay.
And Alyssa Tracy has been appointed as a board rep to that particular committee. So I don't know if Alyssa has an update, even though we don't have the minutes out to you.
Sure. Yes. Thank you, Pat. I joined, and Ari Boos runs that committee. Several other folks joined, and I was graciously welcomed very nicely. And we went through some of the things that had already been discussed about building strengths in the school, the Gallup perspective. Angela was on with us as well. Christy joined and spoke about, just some wellness and yoga. The yoga class at the high school seems to be being received really well, which was great. And I actually take her yoga class, so I kind of attested to, yes, that is true. And then I think it sounded like there was a representation from Adria Horn, who happens to work with me as well. And she was talking about some of the Clifton Strengths resources. And I think her and Angela are going to be in touch there. And then just some good resources for self-meditation and things like that. So for me, it was enjoyable. And I think we'll meet again one more time before the school year's over. It's a quarterly meeting. So I think now we do have the meetings, the minutes, I can share those so we can distribute those.
Great. Alyssa, thank you for being willing to do that. My schedule has just become a little overwhelming, so I appreciate your willingness to take that on.
Certainly.
Okay. Turf committee. Let's see. We met on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. An update on the project. Gabe was unable to attend the meeting, so Nate provided a brief update. At this point in time, there's sand being spread over gravel, and the slip form should be installed in May or June. There's a photographer, Nate Mitchell, and he's on Facebook. So if you go on Facebook, you can see some aerial photographs that have been posted of our project, and they're pretty cool. Let's see, from our last meeting, Andrea had updated the spreadsheet. The recognition wall has been folded into the total cost for the field, including the wall. It looks as though we're at just under $5,000 remaining to be fundraised. However, this does not include the concession stand or the garage. We have sent out requests to the vendors requesting that their logos are sent to us pretty quickly. We have a 6-week turnaround with the turf company for those. Once the logos are in, it takes 6 weeks for the turf company to get those done. So we've put out a request for that, and we're waiting for those. Those letters, I think, went out a couple days ago, maybe a couple days ago. Let's see. Pat has reached out to Siemens, and they're going to get back to us as to whether or not they will contribute. Chad is checking with WB Mason. CMC Communications is being communicated with. Manchester Motors, Nate has reached out to them. Cross Insurance has requested to donate $1,000 for 5 years. So we're arranging that with them. Deb Kuchar is also wanting to pay $1,000 for 5 years, and so we're getting that set up for her as well. Sports Boosters will be making a $10,000 gauze lines insurance, $1,000 donation, and that's I think that's pretty much where we are. Oh, and there's one more super cool fundraiser, and that is sandal slides that Chad found for us. And they are $30. And apparently it's out because I received a text message 5 minutes before the meeting from my son with his foot size. So that fundraiser is up and running. So please watch for the slide fundraiser. everyone needs slides because summer is going to come and we are going to be outside, I promise. So,
And I believe they say Tiger Pride on the
so it's
top,
very,
correct?
it's got, I wish if I was there, I could show you, it's a black footbed with an orange band. And then does it say, let me look at I can pull up my messages here really quickly on my phone. I mean, oh, and he said size 13. He's got a big foot. Let's see. It's a pop, and on one it says tiger, and on the other it says pride. So as they're walking away, it'll be tiger pride, tiger pride. It's gonna be great. Buy your slides, everyone. So that's what we have for turf committee. General information.
The general information is just as written. I will say that the addition of Samantha Dimmick, that long-term sub position that's going to be paid for out of federal monies, and the reason for that position is for our schools at the at Helen Thompson to be able to shift to grades 3 through 5 to shift to green. They need some additional staff. We need to take one of our long-term subs and turn it into a teaching position for grade 4-5. And this particular person is going to help out with grades 2-3. So without these positions, we would not be able to bring students grades 3 through 5 back. The next position, which is under nominations for Danielle, grade 3, this is a teacher position. This is at the Pittston Randolph Community School. It is only for the remainder of this year. It's also going to be paid for out of federal funds. And again, it's for the sole purpose of being able to return students in grades 3 through 5. We have some larger class sizes, and without these positions, we could not follow protocols and bring our students back safely. Because Danielle, Becky, is a teaching position, I will need a motion
Okay.
for her hire.
I can make that motion.
Okay. I need a motion and a second. Thank you.
I would second that.
Thank you, Nicole.
Welcome, Becky.
Any questions or comments from board members? Hearing none, Pat, would you please read the roll?
Becky Fless.
Yay.
Veronica Babcock.
Yay.
I don't believe Nancy has joined us. So Teresa Garrett.
Yay.
Matthew Lillybridge.
Yay.
Jim Lothridge.
Yay.
Nicole Medor.
Yay.
Matthew Marshall.
Yay.
Patrick Saucier.
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy.
Yay.
Cullen McGuff.
Yay.
Gwen Boldick Ignaziak.
Yay.
Great, that's unanimous, Becky.
Thank you. And I just received a little poke from Chad that there is a link to the fundraiser on the athletic website and on the Facebook page, and he will include it in his next informational letter as well for the slides. So thank you for that, Chad. Let's see, update on the MSAD instructional models.
So we have here under old business, the update on the MSAD11 instructional models, and the next one is the bus driver shortage. I think I'm going to flip those if that's okay. I think I'll start off by giving you an update on transportation. And so I wanted to make sure that you knew that we are actually down 6 drivers, not 5 drivers like I previously reported this week. I forgot about a retirement. So we have 2 drivers who are out due to medical reasons, and they've been out since the very beginning of the school year. We have someone who resigned that was not COVID related. We had someone retire. And then just this week, we have one who went on leave of absence due to COVID concerns, and one is out for non-related COVID reasons. So it is possible that we could have A couple people returned prior to the end of the school year. Because of the medical leave, it is possible that the person will return. And with the promise of vaccines coming, there is the possibility that others will join us. So we don't know what exactly will happen. I do want to give a huge shout out to Gabe and to Charles, our director and assistant director for transportation. They have been so creative. They have dug deep in trying to figure out how to shift bus routes around, how to move students around in order to allow our transportation department to continue operating. I also have to send out a huge thank you to our bus drivers. Our bus drivers have been willing to be incredibly flexible and have helped make the adjustments that will allow us to keep students in school. You know, without their assistance, we would not be in green in grades pre-K through 2 right now. So, you know, what is the issue with our transportation department? As I said, we're down 6 drivers. And so if we lose one more driver, it is possible or very likely that we will have to shift to red for a little bit of time until we can figure out an alternative plan. Gabe and I have also talked about the possibility of doing some double runs. And keep in mind, part of the problem here is that we still have to operate within CDC guidelines. So while we're able to increase the number of students who are on the bus, we can't fill our buses to capacity, you know, where like they were prior to the pandemic. We have been having our students sit every other row, which was recommendation, but we are also able to have students in a body in every seat if need be. And in some cases, we can put 2 bodies to a seat. And what we've been trying to do in those situations where we've had to put 2 students in the same seat is we've tried to find out what bubble those students are in. And what I mean by that is we will have siblings sit together, or if children go to the same daycare, if they're at the same bus stop, if they're in the same classroom, and we try to figure out what group they're in, and then based upon that, we then make a determination as to whether they can sit together or not. And so, you know, with all of that going on, it makes it incredibly difficult for our transportation department to function. So one option, as I started to say, is that we can do double runs. We can do double runs where we can take a number of students, we can pick them up, drop them off at the school, and then finish the run. If that happens, what it means is that probably the second run would result in students not being delivered to school till maybe 9 o'clock in the morning. So there would be some missed academic time, but I certainly believe that that loss of academic time is made up by having students in school 4 days a week at our elementary schools versus just the 2 days a week. We are also engaging in conversations with like the Boys and Girls Club. We do, because of the number of students who travel over to the Boys and Girls Club, who have that as their after school program, we have dedicated buses, and we may not be able to do that any longer. So we're engaging in conversations with the Boys and Girls Club to try to collaboratively come up with some solutions, the possibility of them doing some of the transporting, or maybe they can hire another outside transportation company. I don't know, but we're at a place where we're desperate. If you read the letter that I sent out to families at the beginning of the week, I was almost pleading for families who have the ability to transport their children to please do so. Because if we lose another driver, we don't have an easy remedy that will allow our transportation department to continue. So I think that that's really important for the board to understand that element. Now, according to Gabe and I'm sorry he couldn't be here tonight. According to Gabe, we should be all set, given the drivers that we currently have, given the reconfiguration that he's done, for grades 3 through 5 to also return to green. He did inform me, however, that he does not believe, given the current capacity or lack of capacity that he has, he does not believe that he can operate the middle school and the high school in green, given our current transportation restrictions, that he cannot accommodate a shift to green at that age level. So I want to put that out there. Again, things change all the time now that we're hearing that vaccines are going to be more readily available to staff. You know, maybe that expedited process will permit some of the drivers to return sooner than what we anticipated. We don't know, but that's important to know. We do have, with all the advertising that's been going on, we do have one person in the community who has stepped forward, who has expressed interest in becoming a bus driver. We're ecstatic about that. The individual is going through the training process. I believe he has his permit, and if all goes well, he will be licensed and ready to drive around the end of April. But that's a long time from now, but still.
Well,
The other, I'll just add one more thing, Becky. The other thing,
sure.
and this is more long-term. This is really looking to next year, or the following year. Gabe and Josh Farr, our director of adult ed, they're also working collaboratively with the Miranda Cook Adult Ed Department to develop a training program that would allow interested people to get their CDL license. And then through that, they would also be able to get their bus driver endorsement. So that's also happening behind the scenes, but it will not occur. The program really won't begin until next school year, but it's at least hope for the future.
That's great. Matthew, you have a raised hand.
Yeah, so thinking way out of the box here, there are some districts that surround us that aren't planning on going green. Am I right? I don't know.
Yes.
Is there any way we could maybe collaborate and tap into their bus driver resources, and maybe work on some reimbursement type plan to get what we need to get done? I'm just trying to think out of the box.
I have not asked that question, so I can't answer whether that's a possibility or not. In my weekly meetings with the area superintendents, they're all reporting that they're short bus drivers. All of them. None of them have enough bus drivers to do their current run. So I could certainly ask the question, Matt, but my sense is that they're struggling as much as we are.
Right. I mean, the goal is to get kids back to school, right? It doesn't really
Absolutely.
matter what district they're in.
Absolutely.
Just trying to think a little bit out of the box. That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you for that idea.
And I will, you know, one other thing, if I'm listening to this conversation, one creative idea might be, there are huge vans, right? 15 passenger vans. Why don't we just get a bunch of vans and drive students to school? There are federal regulations that prevent school districts from using 15 passenger vans. We're not allowed to do so. So while private entities may have that flexibility, we do not as a school system. So that's not a route that we can take.
So the other thing, Pat, I was thinking about is if parents, parents, I think most parents want the kids back at school. So if we could get parents to provide transportation for their kids to and from school, it would certainly lessen the burden on the bus driver issue. That's just another thing to think about, I suppose.
Well, as I said in the letter I sent out earlier in the week, I was practically begging for parents, whoever can. So
Doing what you
I
can, I get
came
it.
close to using the word plead. I plead. So yes, that is what we're asking. If families, if they at all have the option and the flexibility in their schedule, if they're able to transport their children to and from school, we are asking them to do so.
Please do so.
Yes, please.
Please, please, please. Okay. Update on the instructional models?
Sure. Yes, again, I want to stress that while we are slowly returning our elementary students to the buildings, I just want to remind everyone that while we're doing this, we still must abide by the CDC safety guidelines. So to be really clear that with the plans that we're putting forward, students must still be 3 to 6 feet apart with masks on. During lunch, during snacks, or any time when they don't have a mask on, they must be at least 6 feet apart. And the same for staff. Staff are supposed to be 6 feet apart, either with a mask or if they're eating without a mask, at least 6 feet apart. Even further apart is recommended. So I just kind of want to throw that out there. It is expected that these guidelines are not going to change between now and the rest of the school year. Based on the information I'm getting, we should plan on these guidelines remaining in place through the rest of this year. So this is the first week, as you know, that students from both cohort A and cohort B in grades K2 have been in school together. Today was day 3. Tomorrow will be the first full week. Unfortunately, Monday's rain and then Tuesday's temperature was probably the coldest day of the entire year occurred. And so it made the transition for those students and staff to have them back in school extremely difficult because students couldn't go outside for motor breaks. So I know the schools were a little tight, but I'm so appreciative of the staff and the administration for making that work. I have asked each of the elementary administrators who have students K through 2 to be prepared to just give you a very brief update so you can hear directly from them of how the transition of students in grades K2, how that's gone. So I see Katie Gould's face in front of me on the screen. Katie, would you be willing to kick us off and just give us a brief update on how it went at Helen Thompson?
Sure, but you just stole my thunder, Pat. Really, the inside recess back to back on day 1 and 2 was just the ultimate challenge to overcome. But like all of the challenges that we've faced so far, we did it. So just to keep it really brief, the kids are so happy. The students are so happy to be back. The staff is so happy to have them back. Some of the teachers mentioned what a relief it already feels like to just be able to let the daily checking of Seesaw, the online platform, go. You know, and that was after just the first 2 days. So that I would think that hasn't even really sunk in yet, but just to be able to let that go. I mean, keep in mind that even planning for green with whole class instruction, having everybody back one lesson, you're still differentiating for a set of 16, 17, 18, 20 students. So that's not easy, but it simplifies things for our teaching staff. And likewise, interventionists were reporting that it really freed up some time where they're scheduling 2 different intervention blocks for cohort A kids and B kids. We're able to combine in spots now. And so that will certainly be the case also when 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders come back. So those were some positives. I can't say enough, and I know that all of the team will say the teamwork and the willingness for every staff member in our building, and bus drivers included, to wear multiple hats every single day, to change their plans or their schedules on a dime every single day. Plans that I might communicate with the staff tonight will change by tomorrow morning, and people are just making the switch, wearing a smile, and getting it done for kids. And it blows me away. I mean, it's just consistent, and it's with a smile, and it's for the students, and it's And it's exhausting. You know, I mean, I've said before, everybody has said before that, you know, there's this look of whew, everybody just being wiped. But again, the kids walk in and everybody is all in. And so I just couldn't be more proud. It takes a lot of effort and we're doing it every day. As Pat said, we went from 4 buses to 2 buses. So that is a challenge. And it's taking all hands on deck to help kids navigate the building and figure out where they're going. Again, it's seamless. The kids are smiling even as they're boarding the bus, even if it's a different driver or a new driver with a new bus aide. A challenge is that we've reduced lunch times by 10 minutes, which cuts out transition time, which is requiring all hands on deck at lunchtime to get all of the surfaces and the chairs washed for the next group of kids coming in. It's getting done every day. We're in a unique position, as is Pittston Randolph Consolidated, where we're sort of in this 2-week interim schedule. We're green in pre-K 2 and we're still yellow in 3-5. So it's quite tricky to manage that just on paper, much less, you know, when the students are actually there. We're figuring that out. I can't thank the parents enough who are willing to transport. I mean, we're happy to bus our kids for sure, but that parent pickup and drop off is so helpful right now. And we've got a lot of kids coming through every day and it's going smoothly. The dismissal squad is amazing. I mean, we're delivering kids and messages and backpacks and smiles and safety. It's amazing to watch it happen so quickly every day. You know, space is tight and it's requiring the instructional staff to dramatically change what it looks like. By design, teachers plan with intention for students to move, share materials, turn and talk, work with a partner. That's changed while we're in green and following the guidelines. And so that tugs at all of us, you know, as we want those things for our kids. It feels a bit like a compromise right now. And we're doing that because that's what it takes to get our kids back 4 days. So in a nutshell, I think that's what I wanted to share from Helen Thompson tonight.
Thank you, Katie.
Yes, thank
What
you
about,
so much.
what about Karen over at LER?
Yes, so I echo just about everything that Katie has said. The staff has just been amazing. I have assigned some tasks to people to really help make that flow go well at our school. But again, staff is just all just pitching in and they're supporting each other and they're welcoming the kids, and we're just kind of figuring things out that kind of come up as we get through our schedules. So I'll start off with happy students. I mean, the kids are just thrilled to be back in school for the most part. I will say some students are having a little bit of an issue just transitioning back to a 4-day schedule. We're not used to it. We did have some little ones fall asleep yesterday, not yesterday, today after lunch, just because it's 3 days now and they're not used to it. So, but they're doing okay. The kids are just loving that they're seeing their friends again that they hadn't seen since kindergarten or first grade last year. So they're loving that. Our parent drop off and pickup is going phenomenally. The families are doing awesome. They're following our traffic patterns out there. And I have to, and I've said this in my newsletter and I put it on Facebook, their patience, their support has been overwhelming. They're rolling down their windows to yell out to us, you know, good job, you guys. Thank you so much. We love you. I got letters today from a student. So they're just really, really supportive of all that we're doing. So that's been really great. We are having to use our gym, our stage, and our cafeteria for the distancing for snack and for lunch. So the staff, especially the support staff, we're washing tables and chairs. It feels like from the time we get to school till at least 2 o'clock. It's a lot of cleaning. So that's happening. I will say the same thing as Katie is saying. Teachers are trying to work out some protocols for lining up and trying to make traffic flow in the hallways safe and manageable. Lots of concerns for not being able to do some of the best practices that they have done in the past, like small group instruction and meeting in a reading group. Their rooms are wall-to-wall desks. And so there's no space to do that. So that's been a concern that we've been kind of talking about. Teachers are working super hard. I will say we're all tired. It's been a long week, and a lot of problem solving, a lot of being really creative, a lot of powerful energy going on, but overall, it's been a great week. Familiar.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Karen. And what about Christina over at Pittston Randolph?
Sure, thanks, Pat. I mean, a lot of what you hear me saying is similar to what Katie and Karen have already shared, but you know, we've spent months really planning all of the intricate details of figuring out how to bring our students back in green. And you know, all the staff have put so much work into planning this, figuring out how to make it work and meet all the guidelines. And we've finally been able to do it. So there's so much positive energy around the building. People are just really happy. The students are happy. Teachers are thrilled to have a full class of students now. They were talking a lot about just the energy of the class and how positive that is, and just all the happy voices, you know, that you hear as you walk down the hallways and in the classrooms. So that's been really nice. I think instructionally, teachers are definitely thrilled to be able to actually move forward a little bit more with their curriculum rather than redoing lessons, you know, and teaching them twice a week. So that's been a huge positive. And they also noted that students are really adjusting well. I mean, they're tired for sure because they're getting used to the routine, but even students that teachers thought might have had a difficult time have really been just shining and adapting well. So that's been great. And it's cute. They're very excited to see their new friends. One of the teachers shared that the class read their classroom constitution. And she noted that the two groups of students, they were each amazed that the other group knew the Constitution because they really didn't grasp that, you know, while they're at school or while they're home, the other group is at school. So it was very cute that she shared that. You know, all that being said, it's not without the challenges and different things to get used to. As Katie and Karen said, I mean, teachers are tired. It's very similar to the first few days of school. And the space is really tight, and teachers and staff have had to get creative in the ways to really meet the movement needs of the students. Lunch is shorter for us as well, so the children have to get used to that, and that's going to take a little bit of time, you know, and we're smoothing out things around the arrival and dismissal. It's been going pretty well, but like Katie was saying, we are unique in that we don't have grade 3 to 5 yet, so I'm sure there'll be a little bit of smoothing that goes on once they come back too. But parents have been wonderful, so understanding and supportive, and again, cheering us on. They're thrilled, I think, to have students back 4 days a week. So all in all, it was really a very good week, and we're really looking forward to bringing grades 3 to 5 back on the 15th.
That's great.
So if there are no questions about that, or if we hold questions, then what Christina just said is a great lead into the next section. And that is on March 15th. We are planning to bring back grades 3 through 5. And so administrators are also prepared, just to give you a brief update on where things stand in having them back. Christina, since you made that segue, would you like to share from your perspective what's going on for that transition?
Sure. So, you know, that's been a significant piece of what we've been planning as we've been planning for green all along. We just had a staff meeting yesterday where our K-2 teachers shared their experience and any kind of tips and tricks along the way for just how to make it a smooth transition. But really, we're ready. We're set up. You know, the teachers are prepping the kids for it, and they're looking forward to having them back. Of course, for our 3rd grade, we need to divide that class. So thank you for approving Danielle. She's going to be a great addition. I've reached out to our 3rd grade parents who have been, again, very understanding and flexible with this need to divide the class and have half the class going to the new teacher. They've been very supportive and understanding of that, which has been great.
Thank you, Christina.
Welcome.
Vicky, would you like to share from Riverview how things are going?
Certainly. So we are 3-5, so we haven't started going green yet. We've been making the plans to start on March 15th. So we've met as a staff a few times to go over where we think we're going to have some challenges. And I think one of our bigger things that we were worried about was lunch and recess. And due to our custodian being very creative, we've been able to utilize the same space, our cafeteria and our gym, so that we can stick with our same scheduling. So that has helped tremendously. We might have to tweak times a tiny little bit to allow for more cleaning. We're going to kind of wait and see what that looks like. Arrival dismissal is going to stay about the same because luckily we don't have the traffic that poor LER does. So it does make our arrival and dismissal process a little bit easier. Our desks are all in the rooms to account for the number of students. So teachers have had some time to do dry runs. And so that each cohort can see what it's going to look like, where the desks are going to be when the students are all back in place. So a lot of it is just, we've put as many policies and procedures in place, but it's really going to just wait and see when the kiddos come back. It's kind of interesting to think that some of the kids haven't seen each other in a year. If they haven't done school things outside of the school, they haven't seen each other. The teachers have done a good job with Google Meets and bringing the cohorts together and prepare them for that. And I sat in on a morning meeting this morning where the teacher was talking to cohort B about what it was going to look like when cohort A was back in. So they're definitely working on preparing the students. And we're just waiting to start.
Thank you, Vicky. And Katie, what about Helen Thompson?
Yeah, the same as Vicky and Christina said. Fortunately, we get this practice, this 2-week period of practice with K2, and it gives us a sense, especially on inside recess days, it gives us a sense for knowing that PE has to be in the gym, and lunches are in the gym, and mask breaks are in the gym, and the PE has to move to the pods, and so it sort of gave that squeezing feeling of oh, this might be more similar to when 3-5 comes back, just as far as available space, but we. Like Christina, thank you for your support in hiring Samantha Dimmick, who will come on board starting Monday. She'll support predominantly in 2nd and 3rd grade. We're very much looking forward to having her join us. Likewise, we have Manny Placentia, who will shift into being the 4-5 classroom teacher. He is planning as we speak for that to happen, and his classroom space is going to be finalized at the start of next week, coming right down to the wire, but we're great under pressure these days. There's a silver lining of this year. Teachers are finalizing their room layouts, and finally giving up the tables and switching out for desks and adding more desks. And so some tweaks to some scheduling, but we're in pretty good shape and we're ready to roll, or we will be March 15th.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it. And so then that leaves grades 6 through 12. And while I said at the beginning of this conversation that transportation may prevent us from being able to increase the number of in-person days for middle school and high school, the administration and staff at those buildings are still doing the work, still trying to find out what they can do. Whether they're able to shift back to green should something change with transportation, or at a minimum, if they're able to increase the number of students in the building in some capacity. So I would look to John, if you want to kick us off. John, if you can give us a brief update on what you're doing at the middle school, then we'll shift it to Chad at the high school.
Okay, great. Thank you, Pat. So initially, during February vacation, I did a lot of research in the building to see what kind of space we had available for students and how many students we could bring back in the building on a full-time basis. After that, Principal Kempton and I met, and we together created a survey to send out to parents. And the survey is really just to get a sense of what people are interested in and what people feel they can do with their students, whether it's 4 days remote, or still stay in the cohort A and cohort B. That is a survey that we plan on sending out with a letter from each one of us to families on Monday. So we can take that data and see what it tells us and try to get a sense of what we can do. We do have some obstacles, transportation being one of them, But I think within the high school and the middle school, at least the middle school, food service is a challenge because we are limited to the certain amount of people that can be in the cafeteria at a time. And we're already serving lunch 6 times a day, where in a normal year it was 3 times a day by grade level. So there are still some challenges. We've spent some time trying to be creative because although it may look like we can bring a certain amount of kids into a homeroom or into a content area classroom, when it comes to allied arts, sometimes we mix classrooms, which makes the group of kids that go into that allied arts a little larger. And so we were trying to strategize to see how we could bring those kids into the allied arts, looking at space, how can we adjust space? And then some of the allied arts, there's limits to it. And so we're really thinking about what we can do and how many kids we can bring into the school. And I'm encouraged. I look forward to bringing more kids into the building. I was in a science class the other day that had 13 kids in it, and that's just happened to be the way the cohort went. And it was really nice seeing 13 kids in a classroom with a science teacher that was engaging them in the classroom at the same time he was with another, 10 or 12 remotely. It was pretty exciting. So when you see kids in a classroom excited and engaged, it kind of makes you look forward to bring more in the building. So it's been great working with Chad trying to get this ready. And hopefully we can give you more news in the future.
Great. Thank you, John. And John, with something that you said, I just want to provide a little clarity. Keep in mind that because in grades 6 through 12, we're providing synchronous learning, it gives John and Chad a little more creativity in meeting the needs of individual students. So they don't have to be green or remote. There are some students who can still remain in a hybrid model if they want, or we could bring more students back in like a cohort D model, as well as maintain cohort C. So they do have a little more flexibility that the elementary schools do not have. Chad?
Can I speak to that real quick, Pat? And we also know that there's a certain amount of, in the middle school at least, a certain amount of families that if they chose to stay remote, that it would make bringing kids in 4 days a week a lot easier as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Chad, would you like to give an update from the high school's perspective?
Sure. So right now, I just looked at our numbers, and we have 225 kids in our cohort A, and those kids are in the building for Mondays and Tuesdays, and they're remote on Thursdays and Fridays. Our cohort B group is 211 kids, and again, they do the opposite, so they're remote on Mondays and Tuesdays and in the building on Thursdays and Fridays. We're up to 190 kids that are fully remote, and we have 19 kids that are in the building 4 days a week, so which totals to our 645 kids. The trend has been to switching to cohort C, surprisingly enough. We've had a couple situations where kids were out in cohort C for family reasons, surgeries, medical situations with older adults in the house, and they have since come back into the building, into their regular cohorts. So that has been good. And the survey that we've been working on is really to hopefully meet the needs of all of our parents, in that we're going to provide 3 options. They'll be able to sign up for the full in the building 4 days a week, which a couple of folks have said that a lot of people want to do. They'll be able to stay in their hybrid mode, and they'll be able to stay in full remote, because we know that all of those situations that are out there in different families and households would warrant that. Some people are comfortable being in the building 2 days a week, but not 4. Some people need to be fully remote, and some people really need to be in the building 4 days a week. So we're hoping this survey will accomplish that. Our situation at the high school is a complex situation because I can't just bring back all of my seniors or all of my juniors or all of my sophomores or freshmen because they're all in one group together. So I have to look at each of the grade levels and the class sizes and the capacities and bring back a portion of each of those grade levels to make sure that I'm not going over the capacities of the classroom. So Jackie and Jared are revisiting the class sizes and capacities of all of our classrooms. And then after we get this survey back, we'll be looking at plugging numbers in to see how much or what percentage of people that we can accommodate in that full green mode, the hybrid mode, and the remote mode. Like I said, our goal is to hopefully meet everyone's needs, and in a perfect world, that's what will happen. And if that's not the case, then we'll have to make some decisions in regards to how we can do that. And it may be based on schedules. And the other factor, as we've already talked about, is the busing situation, in that if it may come down to whether we need to provide transportation or not, and we could squeak somebody in that doesn't need transportation and try to fill our classroom. So the challenges are what they are in this pandemic, but my staff and students are handling it very well. The synchronous learning is going as well as it can be. It's not ideal. I say that a lot in my informational letters, but we're making it work, and working together is how we're going to make it work. And that's the staff, the students, and the parents. And so that so far has been very well. Everyone is patient. They know that it's not ideal, but we're making it work as best we can and communicating as much as we can. So I don't have any concerns, so to speak. It's just, we're working through a difficult time and making it work as best we can.
Well, thank you, Chad. I appreciate that. And I really want to express my appreciation for all of the staff. But I work most closely with the administrators. And the administrators really need a huge shout out as well. I think as board members, you get to see what they do. They are working around the clock to make this happen and to lead the work in each of their individual schools. And so we wouldn't be where we are without them and their dedication to make this happen. So we have an amazing administrative team. I love working with them. And I just want to make sure that they all know how much they're appreciated and their effort is not going unnoticed. I would also like to recognize child nutrition and that staff. We haven't talked about them. John mentioned something earlier with his staff at the middle school. It's really important to understand that our child nutrition staff, not only are they preparing meals for students who are in the building, they're also preparing meals for students who are at home. So they are preparing bagged lunches on Tuesdays. They're preparing meals for all of the students whose families have selected to receive food at home. They're preparing 5 meals for a week while they're also trying to feed students in the school. It's just an awesome task. It takes a lot of time, a lot of planning, a lot of dedication, and I want to make sure that we recognize them for all of the work they're doing to make sure that they provide healthy meals for all of our children, whether they're in school or not. So that's the update, Becky, that we have on our instructional models and on our bus driver shortage. So I don't know if board members have questions or not. There have been a few comments that I see in the chat, but I'm not sure if anyone else has a specific question.
Yeah, does anyone have a question or a concern or something that didn't make sense? Yes, Alyssa.
Thank you, Becky. Pat, when we were talking about transportation, a question I had is where, like you mentioned, sounded like Gabe said when we get to the next phase, he's already anticipating we'll be okay. Do you know how close, like how close are we? My concern is if we're having to switch again, and I like Matt's thought of trying to do something innovative, and I know not everyone can transport their students. We were lucky enough to be able to do that this year, to two of the schools, but it's not everyone can do that. I'm just wondering how close are we if we do have, a bus shortage. When you mentioned that transition to red, what should people be feeling like? How close are we to that,
I think I can't answer that question directly. Okay. I think the best answer I can provide, Alyssa, is it depends. All right. It depends. It would depend where the driver run is located.
Okay.
So if we lose a driver and that driver happens to be West Gardner, well, Katie already said that we started the year with 4 drivers, and this week we're down to 2 drivers.
Right.
If West Gardner lost another driver and we had one, then we would have to pause and really think about how we're going to manage. If
Right.
it happens to be a driver in Gardner, then we might have a little more flexibility to use the approach of doing double runs that I mentioned earlier. So it'll just be dependent upon the circumstances.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Matt, Lilybridge.
Just wanted to double check something that either John or Chad said about, and again, it's about the driver shortage and stuff like that. And I don't have any doubt that you guys are, banging your heads on the wall trying to figure out every possible scenario. But with regards to either the high school, the middle school, and then I, Chad, you said something to the effect of you can't say we'll just have seniors or something like that. Is there a way, and again, not knowing any of the background, it could be a stupid question, but is there a way to bring, omit one group of classes? And I'm only just thinking, Bowdoin had the freshmen on campus first semester and had the last 3 sophomores, juniors, seniors on campus for second semester. Is that feasible at all? Or is it just too many logistics with, maybe 2 kids from the same family in a different grade or something or other? Just like I said, I know you probably thought of it, just wondering if that option has been explored, or if it's even feasible. Sorry about my dog barking.
One of the challenges that we have is that all of our kids' schedules are unique to themselves. They don't travel in a pack or a pod or on a team. So we could have one group of kids in a classroom all together, and then their next period, they could be in completely different classrooms. That they don't go from classroom to classroom together. So that makes our situation a little more complex than other grade levels. The benefit that we have is that we have kids that have licenses, and so there are our upperclassmen. A lot of them have their driver's license, and some of them have younger siblings that travel with them. So that's a flexibility that we have that other grade levels don't. And part of the survey that I'm putting out is asking that question as to whether they take their own transportation or do they use our transportation, as well as what town they live in. Because as Pat talked about, if there's a real shortage in Pittston, then we have to think through the kids that come from Pittston a little bit differently than maybe the kids from West Gardner. So that the grade level thing, we would have to really restructure how we do business. I don't know as if I could pull that one off, at this stage of the game. And it might be a situation where we're robbing Peter to pay Paul, in that we're pulling the same amount of kids out as we're bringing in, like what we're doing now. And right now, I think everybody is at a place where they're most comfortable and that they've been able to request being fully remote or being in the hybrid model. The only thing that we haven't been able to do is bring kids into that full green or full in-school model, other than the 19 that we have. And the busing situation is going to be a potential roadblock to that other than personal vehicles. So I hope that answered your question.
No, it did. And you had mentioned the different kids going from one class to another. I know it just probably went over my head. I appreciate it.
Cullen had put a statement in the chat that perhaps some of our students could eke out their service hours by driving their friends to school, and I'm sure that's a hot issue with. That would be a hot issue, I think.
Oh gosh, I shouldn't have put that in there. I was being a little bit flip. But anything that takes the pressure off
Right.
the driver load would be good right now.
Right. My concern would be students are always happy to drive other students, even when they don't have when they're not supposed to. They'll look for any excuse to have a car full of kids. And so that could be a danger. And then are they in the same bubble? And I love the idea. And I wish that was possible, but I'm thinking that's probably not the best one. And it's okay that you put it in the chat. Don't feel bad about that. That's good. Other questions? This is the time, board members.
Question.
You have, Teresa had her hand raised and Jim has his hand raised.
Jim first and then Teresa, since I've already, yeah, okay.
Okay. Is there going to be a point in time when we decide that going to a full green, I'm talking about just high school and middle school, where we are far enough into the year with the synchronous learning that it would be counterproductive to try to switch over to a full green pattern? I mean, if we could do it in the next month, that would be great. But if we're getting in towards April, beginning of May, does it make any sense to do the switch over? And I don't know the answer. Maybe you can enlighten me. Thank you.
I don't know that I can enlighten you, Jim. I'm not sure that I have the answer as to what's best. We have not engaged in serious conversations about that specific question. We are focused right now on trying to figure out if we can get students back at all. If we're able to overcome those hurdles that we identified today for middle school to high school, and we feel like we are able to bring more students back, then we'll have to look at the time frame. If it's the beginning of June, well, then that probably doesn't make sense with school ending only 2 weeks later. But if it's the middle of May, I don't know, 4 weeks is 4 weeks. Maybe it makes sense, maybe it doesn't. We'll have to kind of cross that hurdle when we come to it.
Okay.
I don't know if Chad would add to it.
Yeah, what I'd say, it won't directly answer your question, Jim, but one of the big reasons why we want to put this survey out now is that so in case our situation with transportation improves, and that could happen with warmer weather, with the people getting their coronavirus shots, and everyone feeling better about being in the public and being around people. If our transportation system improves, we want to be ready with making that switch instead of waiting to see if that improves and then trying to gather information and then making that switch. So using the month of March to see where the wishes are of our kids and our families may come into fruition, and we may use it if conditions improve for busing, and we may not use it because we don't have the capacity to transport enough kids to do it.
I'm very much in favor of getting back to school. I'm just looking at trying to think about the reality of getting back to school. And I think if we could get in by the beginning of May, that'd be fantastic, or even sooner. But anyways, thank you. That was all my concern. And you seem like you're going to have to, you'll address it once you find out if you have the capacity. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Teresa.
My question has to do with student drivers. I know many years ago when I was at Gardner High School, there was like only the upperclassmen could drive. Is that still active, or can any licensed student drive to school?
Any licensed student can drive to school.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Other questions? Ready to move along then, you think? All right then. Next is approval of the 21-22 school year calendar. This is my favorite time
Yes.
of the year.
I know you love it, don't you? I am going to try to present. Okay. All right. So for those of you who haven't been through the process of approving a calendar, I just want to give you a little bit of a background. This is the proposed 2021-2022 calendar. You need to know that it was developed in collaboration with other school districts in this particular region. We are required by law to have no more than 5 dissimilar days with all of the schools who send their students to the Capital Area Technical Center. So that would include RSU 2, the Halldale School District, RSU 38, which is Maranacook, Winthrop, Augusta, and Erskine Academy. They're private schools, so they don't necessarily fall under the same law, but they do work with us to try to coordinate. So we're not permitted to have more than 5 dissimilar days. And while the DOE doesn't require that we coordinate early release days, they certainly encourage it. And so our group has worked together effectively for many years. And this year, our proposed calendar represents only 3 dissimilar days. And I believe almost all of our early release days are virtually the same. So this calendar is very similar to the calendars that you've seen in the past. So in August, we would have a new staff workshop day the week of the 23rd. And the last week of August, we would have teachers begin on the 30th and 31st with students in grades K through 9 returning on September 1st, and then students, the remaining students, the sophomores through the seniors, would arrive on the 2nd. We would have pre-K begin after Labor Day. You see that we do have some early releases scattered throughout. We have our first workshop would be in October. And then we have an early release day at the end of October. This is unique to our school district, and it is for our parent-teacher conferences per teacher contract. November looks the same as it has in the past. Looking at December, this particular year, Christmas next year will be on a Saturday. And so we are proposing an early release day on the Wednesday before. That would give families 2 days prior to Christmas, and then the entire week following Christmas. With this, students would be able to return on January 3rd. And then as I look at the rest of the calendar, really, this is consistent with what our calendar has looked like for years. There is no significant change. We still have the February break, we have the April break, we have a workshop day in March, and without any snow days built into this. The last student day would be June 10th, with graduation being on Saturday, June 11th. So that is the calendar. I don't know if there are questions.
Teresa has her hand up.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I must have forgotten to take it down.
Oh, that's fine. So Pat, did you get the privilege of making the calendar this year?
I did. I'm going to stop sharing here so I can see all your faces. Yes, I've put this together for a few years. So I put this draft together and work collaboratively with all of the area superintendents. So this was a collaborative process.
That's awesome. Well, you know how I feel about the calendar. However, we are starting in September, and that makes me happy. So it's a wonderful compromise that I know you didn't do for me, but I'm so happy that it falls that way. So that's perfect. So I would motion to accept the 2020, it's hard to say, the 2021-2022 student school year calendar.
I make a motion to accept the calendar.
Thank you.
I second it.
Second by Teresa. Any questions, comments, applause? All right, Pat, would you please read the roll?
Great. Becky Fless.
Yay.
Veronica Babcock.
Yay.
I don't believe Nancy has joined us. Teresa Garrett.
Yay.
Matthew Lillybridge.
Yay.
Jim Lothridge.
Yay.
Nicole Madore.
Yay.
Matthew Marshall.
Yay.
Patrick Saucier.
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy.
Yay.
Cullen McGuff.
Yay.
Gwen Boldick Ignasiak.
Yay.
Great. That's unanimous. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Pat. Board chair report.
No, remember I made an adjustment to the agenda and I moved the changes to special education age eligibility.
Yep, thank you, thank you.
So I'm going to turn this over to Alicia, who is the Director of Special Education, to share this issue with you. And I will let you know that we are looking for a motion at the end of this conversation.
Great,
So
thank
Alicia, are you right there?
I'm here. Okay, so just to quickly recap from our last board meeting, current Maine law indicates that a child may receive special education services up until the end of the school year in which the child turns 20, or until he or she receives a regular high school diploma, and it's whichever comes first. On January 21st of this year, the Department of Ed sent out an administrative letter stating that effective immediately, special education students are eligible to receive FAPE, which is a free appropriate public education, until the age of 22. So the administrative letter came from a First Circuit ruling in 2018 that called out Maine's eligibility standard. This is the reason why it was called out is because the First Circuit Court is the court of appeals for both Maine and Rhode Island, and the principles relied upon by the First Circuit Court in the Rhode Island case would play a huge role if a similar case came to it from Maine. So the reason why this has to be a vote by the board is because it is not law, and the Department of Ed cannot legally apply this change to Maine. However, given that our adult ed system is similar to that of Rhode Island's, the Department of Ed strongly believes that if brought to litigation, the outcome would be the same as Rhode Island's. And currently, Maine parent groups, advocates, and outside service providers are all pushing to extend the eligibility requirement to 22. So how, I just kind of want to give you an idea of how this would affect us. So most of our high school special ed students would meet the standards for a high school diploma. So this would not affect the vast majority of our students, but there could be costs associated with students attending our special purpose private schools. So that would be students attending an out-of-district placement. This could also affect caseloads at the high school but primarily it would be affecting the caseload of the life skills high school teacher. So costs associated with a 5th or 6th year student could be minimal in the sense that students that would currently be attending a special purpose private school for a 5th or 6th year would most likely be on a waiting list for adult services. So once their name comes up, they need to take that spot for adult services, or they go back to the bottom of the wait list. And going back to the bottom of the wait list could take them several months or years before they are moved back to the top. So if a child is placed for a 5th or 6th year at a special purpose private school, it would be very likely that their placement would end before the 5th or 6th year is up because they're going to want to take those adult services. So on the other hand, if a student or parent chooses to not accept those adult services and they attend up to the end of the 6th year, the cost could be high because right now, so currently special purpose private schools bill main care under section 65. But once a student reaches the age of 21, they cannot bill main care anymore. So for a full year, the district could be responsible for 100% of the cost of that special purpose private school. So given all of this information, we need to make a decision as to whether or not we would like to extend the eligibility to 22. If we do, this would go into effect for next school year. And if we do not choose to extend, there could be legal costs if brought to litigation, which is very likely. It's also just important on a side note that there is some talk that Maine statute, along with MUSER, which are special ed regulations, will be changed as well. So it will become Maine law at some point. Does anybody have any questions?
Can I just add, Alicia?
Sure.
Our school attorneys, they're recommending that school boards approve extending the age to 22. Is that correct?
So they didn't recommend it. They're leaving it up to each district. But the consensus, with all of the attorneys was that it might cost us more in legal fees fighting it than just doing it. And there's a high possibility that it's going to become Maine law anyway. But they're leaving it up to districts to all make their own decisions, and that's why they've suggested that we bring it to the board to vote.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have two questions, Alyssa and then Jim.
You also have Veronica.
Oh, a third hand. Okay. Alyssa, Veronica, Jim, and then Veronica.
Sure. Thank you, Alicia, for the summary. I actually have family in Rhode Island, so I'm a little familiar, and I was just doing a little of the research. I know it's been a few years since it first came out, and I just noted that the funding thing, like you mentioned, I know they said they may have some technical assistance there. Have you heard any more about that to provide schools with that?
The only thing that I have heard from the director of special services for the state is that they are potentially looking at changing the main care billing so that districts or special purpose private schools could bill beyond the age of 21. But that is all I've heard, and I don't know if that's actually going to take effect.
Thank you for your summary.
You're welcome.
Jim.
You answered one of my questions about the possibility of billing main care in the future. My second question is, which is there any thought that the Rhode Island case will be taken to a further court, like the Supreme Court sometime? Is there anybody looking at that, or is it pretty much they've decided that this is not going to go any farther?
I haven't heard, and the attorneys that we had met with last week didn't say. It really felt like it's kind of a done deal.
It's kind of what I thought, but thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Veronica, and then Matthew.
Alicia, are you finding if you heard anything from parent groups, is the main reason that they're pushing for this because adult services are so hard to get for children with the types of needs that we're seeing, and parents are just really kind of fed up with that? Do you think the reason why this is becoming a burden not a burden, but something the school system is going to have to pick up?
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of the reasons. It's really tough to get on a list for adult services, and if parents are not actively involved, or they may not understand the system, students may be put on a list too late. The other side that I've heard, or the other piece that I've heard a lot of, is it really depends on outside case management. It's if you have a really good involved case manager, your chances of being put on the list are greater than if you don't have an involved case manager that understands the ins and outs of services. But yeah, it is definitely one of the big pushes.
In another question, at our high school, do our special ed teachers, are they doing transition type services for kids to help families place them into adult services, or is that something that's done by outside case management? Because I know some schools have teachers that do that.
Yeah, typically that's done by outside services, but we have had IEP meetings, and there is outside service providers that are involved, but our case managers typically wouldn't be reaching out and trying to find adult services for students.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Matthew?
I know Alicia had mentioned this, I think at the last meeting, that we had talked about raising the age and stuff like that, but what is not that this is my main concern, but everyone always asks about the almighty dollar, because it was only, a handful of students that this would affect on a potential year-to-year basis. So what is because I know for some students with special services, we're talking six figures if they have to go to a school outside of the district type of thing. What would the cost be to, keep a student in till the age of 22?
It would really depend on the year, how many students are going to be attending a fifth or a sixth year in a placement, and where that placement is and what services that student requires. It really varies. But I mean, I could give a guess. If you had a student that would be attending, just one student attending a fifth year, it could range from, 60,000 to, 100,000. It's hard to say, because it really just depends on the placement and the services that the student is receiving.
But if that student just remained in our program, the cost would be nominal, right? I mean,
minimal. Yep, the cost would be minimal. We would just continue providing, the services that we have been providing. It would only be affecting that caseload, because when we graduate seniors, freshmen move up, and then that teacher takes on more of a caseload. But the cost is minimal if the students are attending within the district.
Thank you, Alicia. And like I said, I'm not trying to make it out to be just about the money. I just know someone would ask. And Pat, if it's any issue, my old math teacher is the superintendent now. I can get her point of view on things back in Rhode Island.
Oh.
Well, the cost is always whatever drives the cost, Matthew, is we have to look at that. So it's a good question. Teresa?
So my question is, what do they have to do to get their diploma? what would prevent them from getting their diploma? My question, I guess it kind of relates to, if a parent has a space, a 1-year space, without having a program for their child, what's going to prevent them from not encouraging their child to graduate so that they have that 1-year space, that 1-year span until they can get into an adult program? And at what age are they considered an adult? Because Alicia's calling them adult program, and then some people calling them children. So I'm a little confused with that. Thank you.
So if a student earns all of their credits, then they would graduate. So most students earn all their credits in 4 years. We have a few students that attend for a 5th year. And then this new age eligibility would allow that student to attend for a 6th year. I'm not sure I understand your 1 year. Are you asking if a student graduates, they're without services for a year? I'm not sure.
Yes, I guess
Yes.
that's my question. So I know there's waiting lists for everything.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if this is going to be an incentive for parents not to have their kids graduate because they'd be able to stay in school 1 more year. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
Instead of going a year without help.
Yeah. I have not heard that parents are pushing to keep their kids in a district for an additional year if they can meet the graduation requirements within the 4 or within the 5 years. And it's also it's an IEP team decision. So this is when we sit down towards the probably March, April. You have a student that you see may not graduate, and it's a conversation. And just because a student is eligible for a 6th year doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to want to complete a 6th year. So at 18, the student becomes their own guardian and responsible for their own education and services. And some parents will seek guardianship of their child to extend into adulthood. And that would be the decision, the parent would be making those decisions. We have some students that could be eligible for a 5th or 6th year, and they are making their own decisions because the parent hasn't sought out legal guardianship. So it would really depend and be a case by case. But I have not heard at all that parents are pushing to keep their kids in school for longer while they're waiting for adult services. If I do hear, I can certainly, let everybody know, but that is not something that was discussed. And I don't think that would happen. Most kids and most parents want their children to graduate, in 4 years, and then definitely 5 years. In my opinion, I think the 6th year students are going to be those kiddos that are your life skills students, and it would be a very small percentage of those kids.
And then I just had one more question to add with it. So main care literally just drops them at a certain age, and then they have to wait. There's a year like between their adulthood where they can get the other services, or how does that work?
So I don't know much about adult services, but typically special purpose, our district, we don't bill main care. Some districts do, special purpose private schools do bill main care. And because it's only been up to a 5th year, they've always stopped billing main care under Section 65, which is day treatment, at the age of 21. Now, because we've been talking about how Maine statute will probably change to increase to 22, there's talks now that they would increase the the age where schools can bill main care. I think that that's in the works. This is so new to us. We were all very surprised in January when that letter came out. Typically it's not handled that way. So we're all kind of trying to drive the plane as it's flying, or take off. I don't know that whole saying, but the plane is off the ground and we're building it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
This is something that continually comes up actually on the Thursday morning calls that I do with the DOE. And I haven't heard any of the parents just wanting their kids to stay there to take up space and get services. I don't think that's what's behind it. It's not a bad question, but that's not been anything that they've been talking about. But it's
Yeah,
certainly
and
complicated.
since I've been in the district, I have not heard that we would have a student that would need to complete a 6th year. We do, there would be a student next year. This is the ironically enough, it's the first time since I've been in the district that it's come up that we could have a student attending a 6th year in district. So it would not be
It's not an expensive one
No.
necessarily.
No.
That's good. Jim, you had your hand up?
Yes, I did. Most of the kids that are the students that are in remote placement, they're at another school. Are those behavioral problems, or is there just an intensive life skill program that they're presenting or doing?
It's all of the above.
So
We
they need life skills, but there also are behavioral problems in those kids.
So I mean, there are different kinds of special purpose private schools. There are special purpose private schools that focus on autism. There are special purpose private schools that mainly focus on, behaviors. So it depends.
Okay. So then I'm just wondering if there's things that we can do in-house, and I'm not that familiar with it, but are we meeting most of those needs in-house? Because I think life skill programs are fantastic. I think we should do more of them. I really don't have a problem with extending it for another year, because I think we do a great service to the community and to the students. That if we can make them better citizens, we're better off for doing it. But I just don't know where, I'm concerned about where the money comes from, but so that's it.
We do our very best to program for all students in the district. It is extreme circumstances that we have to send students out of district, and sometimes it's because of safety. We can't keep that student safe, and we can't keep other students safe from that student. And sometimes their needs are just so great that we are unable to provide, and we don't have that expertise or the staffing to provide the level of service that they need.
Are we receiving, or the student receiving, good results from the special needs schools? Are they actually being successful? Are the students able to at least function in society better than what they would be if they tried to stay right here? Or what's the success rate is what I want to know.
So we have students that graduate from special purpose private schools, and we have students that go into adult services because they are unable to live on their own. It really just depends on the student, the disability, the family supports. It varies. I'm sorry if I'm not answering your questions, but it's
Well,
really.
I think you're answering it, but it's just
Okay.
It's a difficult. I just like to know what success rate is in the private schools. Are they doing their job? And if it's a a case where which nobody could do anything better than what they're doing, that's fine. We'll do what has to be done. But I want to make sure that we're getting results from the private schools that we're contracting with, because it's for the students' benefit. That's why we're sending them there. And if we got to spend the money, we might as well get results.
So I'll just give a quick example. If we're sending a student to a special purpose private school that specializes in autism, all of their staff are trained, they're all up to date in ABA programming. They have many BCBAs that work right in the building. They have, ample staff. They are certainly more equipped to meet the needs of those students. They're more equipped than we would be to meet the needs of those students. But we do our very best to meet needs of students in the district, and we put programs and services in place. We contract with outside providers. Sometimes it's just not enough, and we are not able to meet the needs of that student. And that's when we have to send them to a special purpose private school, and they have that level of expertise to be able to work with that student that we just don't have. So
Okay,
I
thank
would
you.
say yes, we probably are getting our money's worth. I don't work in the special purpose private school, so I can't tell you what goes on day to day.
Okay, Teresa, is your hand up again, or? Okay, all right. Other questions?
Can I make a motion?
Did you
Yeah,
make the
okay.
motion?
No, I said, can I? Are we ready for that?
Yes, please. I think we're ready.
Okay.
If there's more,
I
if
make-
there are more questions.
Yes, I make a motion that we allow students to stay in school until they're 22 if it's necessary and deemed by the IEP team.
I'd like to second that.
Thank you, Jim. Conversation, Cullen?
Yes, with that motion, is that for this year or ongoing?
I believe it's ongoing. I think that's how this is. Yeah, it's going to become part of statute. So this is going to be our.
Yep. So we would. So what I would do if you are voting to extend the eligibility is I would need to be sending out a letter to all parents of high school students this year, even if it doesn't apply to them this year. Well, not all high school students, sorry. High school students receiving special ed services, because it will be affecting them in years to come. So this would take effect next year. We would have students who will be coming, or a student who will be coming back if the IEP team determines so.
Thank you. Pat, do you have a recommendation on this?
Yeah, I would certainly recommend at this point that you support the motion that is being made by Veronica. From everything that I've heard, I do believe that the statute's going to change and that it would cost the district far more money in legal fees to fight this. It's better to give our staff time to implement the changes that are necessary. So to make the decision now. You're welcome.
Other questions or comments? Pat, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Becky Fless,
Yay.
Veronica Babcock,
Yay.
Teresa Garrett,
Yay.
Matthew Lillybridge,
Yay.
Jim Lothridge,
Yay.
Nicole Medor,
Yay.
Matthew Marshall,
Yay.
Patrick Saucier,
Yay.
Alyssa Tracy,
Yay.
Cullen McGuff,
Yay.
Gwen Bolduc-Ignasiak?
Yay.
Great. That's everyone, and it's unanimous, Becky.
Thank you, Pat.
Great. Thank you, Alicia.
Yes, thank you, Alicia. Board chair report, legislative update. Since the beginning of this session, which is the short session, the legislative committee through Maine School Boards Association has taken positions on 56 bills, either for, against, neither for nor against, monitor and hold. Many of the bills are focused on COVID recovery for students and lost time over the past year and how we might remedy that. And it's difficult to want to put those kinds of things into law, but there's a lot of energy around that. We had a Region 8 school board meeting last night, and much of that conversation centered around what's happening within our region. We talked about the guidelines for in-person learning that have not changed, and how difficult that is for community members to understand and accept. Largely because certain districts are able to meet in person because of their student population and their demographic just supports it. One of the persons on the call last night was from Vinyl Haven, and they have 4 students, so they haven't had to do anything. Another a superintendent that was on from RSU 20 and Rangeley, they have been able to do it, but it's again because they have, in one district there's 250 students, the other 400, and so they're just able to do it. They have space, they have capacity, and that's really difficult. Another struggle that districts are having is that not understanding that an executive order is a law. People just don't want to follow it anymore. We're tired, and so there was a lot of conversation around that and how do districts manage it, and we're all doing the same thing. All districts are struggling with transportation, as Pat said. And finally, we talked a lot about how we are supporting our superintendents during this process because they're exhausted and their staff is exhausted. And superintendents are our one employee. We talked a lot about how the fact that not all superintendents are created equal. And so to be looking for one because we've exhausted ours would not be a welcome thing to do. And so it's just really necessary to be certain that we're providing support for our superintendent, and also providing enough support that our superintendents are able to provide support for their staff all the time, but especially right now because people are just so tired. The other thing that I want to report about is the Equity Symposium 2021. Nsba every year does an equity symposium. This year, of course, it was done remotely, February 10th. About 2,000 school leaders from across the country committed to educational equity attended the 2021 Nsba Equity Symposium. It's an annual event, typically happens in Washington, D.C. And as part of that, it's a 5-day event, and we oftentimes go over to the Hill to meet with our state senators and representatives and talk with them about education. But of course, that was impossible this year. This year's theme was dismantling racism. It was just wonderful. I could not give it, I couldn't do it a good job describing it. It was just really great. The speakers were inspiring and so practical and have such great ideas. I have a link if anyone is interested in watching it. It's 4 hours. But if anyone is interested in watching it, please just send me an email and I can send you the link. And you can watch it. You don't have to watch it all at once, but you can watch it at your leisure. And it's in my opinion, it's absolutely worth it. And I just enjoy this work. It's so beneficial to see what others are doing across the United States, to see what others are doing in our region, in the Northeast region, which is it's 13 states, which is pretty broad, and it's a great opportunity to learn and know people. So that's what I have. Oh, and the last thing is we're going to have a board workshop on, let's see, let me scroll down just a tiny bit here. It is on Thursday, March 18th at 5:30. So please mark that on your calendars.
And Becky, we scheduled that for no more than 90 minutes, so you would be done by 7 o'clock. And the training will be done by the Executive Director of Maine School Management, Steve Bailey, and with one of your school attorneys, Peter Feldley, and they will be doing it collaboratively.
And it should be good. They're two very good speakers. They're good.
Yeah, we haven't had training in a while, so it should be good. I then only have a couple items very quickly. One, I wanted to bring to the board's attention that I was notified late Friday afternoon that the Gardner Area High School Japan trip has been canceled. That there has been a number of cancellations, some chaperone cancellations, and so the person who was in charge just didn't feel safe at this point in moving forward with that particular trip. Mr. Kempton, are you still on, Chad? Is there anything that you can add to that?
Yep, I'm still here. So I spoke with Amber Dostey and try to keep a long story short, but pre-COVID, there was a large group of folks that signed up for this trip. I think it was in the 40s, and they actually had to shut it off. And since COVID hit, the numbers have diminished down to 11 high school kids, and it was down to, I believe, 1 or 2 chaperones. And given the circumstances that we are in, as well as the uncertainty of travel outside the country and to the country that they're traveling to, Amber was not comfortable, given the situation, to bring the group over to Japan. It's not like, it's a country that is very heavily populated. The trip would have been in a similar time that they're looking to bring, I believe, the Olympics over there, which would have brought millions of more people there. And if there's any kind of accidents or reasons for somebody having to return from the trip, they would be severely shorthanded, and she would not want to have the responsibility of having a group in that area of the world in that kind of situation. So it's unfortunate, but it's part of this whole pandemic thing. And a lot of people have just opted out for very good reasons. And so from what she told me, is that there is a deposit fee, which is a standard fee that people would lose. There's a number of kids that have that participated in fundraising that will receive their fundraising money that they earn back, and that can get put towards the fee that they will not get back from their payments. And it's unfortunate, but I would support it, just given the nature of the trip and the possible dangers that would come of it.
Jim has a question.
Yeah, I know I talked to Pat earlier about this, and is there any chance that we could postpone this to next year? Or I even told Pat that I'd be more than willing to be a chaperone. I've heard from other people, another person that is a possible chaperone. I don't know if we could do it this year or not. Probably not a good year from what you're saying, but if we could get it postponed and rethink this issue for next year, is that a possibility?
I don't believe so, Jim. And part of it is because some of the people that are even on the list now are seniors, and they will be graduating, so there'll be even fewer people that would be around or interested to go in another year. There will be other trips that will be organized. It may not be to Japan, but Amber is a pretty avid traveler and is very generous about leading trips like this. And so I'm sure that she will be, when the opportunity arises, she will be looking to organize another trip.
So how will it work? The money they raised on their own so far, not the deposit, but that will be help. They'll get that back to help pay any losses that they will receive because of the cancellation. Can they take the balance and put it in a savings account basically and save it for whatever other trip may come up?
They would keep it. They can keep it in their own account. I think what we would do, and Andrew would probably support this, is basically clear the books of the trip and give them their fundraising money back, and then they can put it in their own savings account. And then if they decide that they want to go on another trip, they could use that as, you know, part or all of the deposit for that next coming trip.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Teresa has her hand raised.
Yes, Teresa, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
That's okay. I'm wondering, I know with my children's trips in the past, they were required to have traveler's insurance. Would that not cover, I mean, during, you know, this circumstances that's beyond anybody's control, wouldn't the traveler's insurance kick in and the parents would not lose anything? Just wondering.
Yeah, so the Explorica is the travel company that they were going to be using, and there was a standard travel insurance built into that, and then they could purchase additional travel insurance. And so the standard travel insurance gave them the opportunity to get all of their money back except for this deposit fee. So they are getting, depending upon where they were with their payments, and all payments go directly to Explorica. Amber does not, purposely does not handle any of the deposit money. That goes directly from the student to Explorica or the family to Explorica. So there are some families that could have had the trip paid in full. Some could have had it paid 3/4, half, etc. They will get all of that money back except for the deposit fee to sign up for the trip. And any of those that did fundraising, you know, if they raised the equivalent of $50 or $100, they'll get that back and they could put that towards, you know, covering some of their loss. I believe you could have purchased additional travel insurance as an option, but I don't think that, I think that is for like a last minute cancellation. If somebody got sick or injured and they couldn't go, say, within a week of the trip, then they would get their money back as well. But given the circumstances, I don't think it was any financial gain to have that additional insurance, because there was an additional cost to it. And they might have gotten a little bit more money back, but I think it kind of washed out.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Great. Then the last thing that I have, thank you, Chad, very much. I appreciate that. The last thing I have, you've probably all heard by now, we were notified yesterday by the Department of Education that they are prioritizing school staff to be vaccinated sometime this month. So I'm currently waiting for additional information. I'm supposed to receive it tonight or maybe sometime tomorrow. And as soon as I have that information, I will certainly put it out to staff, and I will make sure that you are all aware. It will be available for any staff member who's listed in what's called NEO. It is a state software program in which we have to record every staff member. And as long as the staff member is listed there, and those positions are used to do the calculation for our state subsidy, as long as a person's name is in that particular system, then they will be eligible to receive a vaccination. So that will include many of our substitutes if they're active, as well as our teachers, our bus drivers, our ed techs, food service, all of those individuals. So I will keep you posted as I learn more. Teresa, do you have a question? No, okay. And that's all that I have. And there were no public comments
Nope, I was just
emailed
checking.
to the board. Yeah.
I was
Yep.
checking. Nothing. Well, there.
And no executive session. So that's it.
I can't even. This is no 4-hour meeting.
That's a good thing.
That's a great thing. Thank you all so much. Administrators, thank you so much for your reports. Alicia, thank you for all of your hard work. And I hope that we're supporting you as best we can, or I hope you know that we're supporting you as best we can. We really do appreciate all of your hard work. So thank you all for